Hello everyone, welcome back to Ashish Malik IAS Academy. I am Mansi Tyagi and I take your polity classes and current affairs classes on this YouTube channel. So guys, in our today's lecture, we will be continuing our previous discussion on chapter 8, which is environment and natural resources. But before moving forward, if any one of you wants to get an Academy's Plus subscription, then you can use this referral code Ashish Malik 10 to avail 10% additional discount. You can use this referral code and then you will get 10% additional discount on your subscription fee. Along with this, these are the current affair books by Ashish Malik sir, Disha 365 Current Affairs Volume 1 and Volume 2. Both the books cover approximately 70% of your UPSC syllabus, so make sure आप ये books को ज़रूर खरीदें. And along with this, one more book has been recently launched in the market, which is 1000 Most Probable MCQs with additional 500 previous year questions. So under this book, you will be getting 1500 mock questions. This is a question bank for your preliminary examination. And all the three books, they will help you in having a command on the types of question which could be asked in your exam. So, and also if any one of you wants to get my wants to watch my previous lectures on current affairs or NCERT crash course, then you can go to these three playlists and then you will find my previous lectures in these playlists. So let us start our discussion on chapter number 8, which was environment and natural resources. So in our previous video, we have already talked about the environmental concerns in the global politics. We have talked about these different environmental threats which world is facing today, which are common to every country. No country will be spared from these the consequences of these threats or concerns. So that's why we say that these are the global environmental threats. So we have already discussed all of this and we have also talked about the protection of global commons, जिसमें हमने global commons क्या होते हैं, why do we need to protect them. We have already discussed this. And हमने ये भी देखा that ozone layer, the ozone hole which was discovered, has started recovering. So now let us start with the concept of common but differentiated responsibilities. Now what is this concept? First of all, when we talk about any international issue, there is bound to be differences between different countries or groupings of different countries. Now here also, related to environmental concerns, there was an argument given by developed countries. According to the group of developed countries, they say, which is also known as Global North. So the argument given by Global North is that every country should have equal responsibility for the environmental issues or the ecological degradation which the world is facing in today's time. But as opposed to this view or this argument, developing countries gave their argument that the environmental or the ecological degradation in the world which we are facing today is the product of industrial revolution which was undertaken by developed countries. So developing countries blame developed countries for the present greenhouse gases emissions or the level to which the emission has taken place. So they argue that it is because of the developed countries and they should have more responsibility, and if they have caused more degradation to the environment, to the ecology, then they must take, means developed countries. So the developed countries must also take more responsibilities for undoing the damages which they have done. And they said that developing countries are in the process of industrialization, so they must not be subjected to the similar restrictions which were or which will be imposed on developed countries. So they said that because we are not equals, we haven't contributed much in the ecological degradation. The greenhouse gas emissions by developing countries is far lower than the levels of greenhouse gas emissions which are produced by developed countries. So that is why the responsibility of developed countries is much more than the developing nations. So this argument is given by the developing countries. And this argument that we have common responsibility to protect our ecology, to protect our environment, but we have different responsibility. It is common but different. common because every country or every individual have to work in this particular area, but the share of their responsibility might differ according to their contributions. So, this argument was formalized in the Rio Summit in 1992. We have already talked about the Rio Summit. It is also known as the Earth Summit. So, under this Rio Summit, Rio Declaration was adopted in 1992, under which it was formalized. The concept of common but different responsibilities was formalized, and it was said that all the countries shall cooperate in the spirit of global partnership to conserve, protect, and restore the health of the Earth's resources and integrity of the Earth's resources. So it was said under the Rio Declaration. Now, similar argument was given by UNFCCC, which is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This convention also gave similar argument in the year of 1992, which said that the parties means the parties to the UNFCCC. So the parties must act or should act to protect climate system. And how would they protect climate system? It said that it should be on the basis of equity and in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibility. So both this summit and this convention both gave recognition or formal recognition to this concept of common but differentiated responsibility. Also, the countries which were parties to this convention, they agreed that the largest share of historical emissions of greenhouse gases and the present emission of greenhouse gases, it has its origin in developed countries. It means that developed countries or the developed world is the major contributor to the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, it was also agreed that the per capita emissions in developing countries are still relatively low. The emissions or the greenhouse gases emissions by developing countries, if even they are still very much low as compared to the developed countries. That is why the countries like China, India and other developing countries are exempted from Kyoto Protocol. Now, what is Kyoto Protocol? Kyoto Protocol is an international agreement which sets target for industrialized or developed countries जहाँ पर industrial revolution हुआ था initially, उन countries के लिए ये Kyoto Protocol target set करता है so that they could cut down their greenhouse gas emissions. So it sets target for the industrialized or developed world to cut their greenhouse gases emissions, and which particular gas emission of which particular gas they have to cut. Basically, they have agreed on few basic gases which are considered to be partly responsible for global warming, and these include carbon dioxide, methane and hydrochlorofluorocarbon. So these three gases are majorly considered or responsible for the global warming. There are other gases also, and these gases result in rise of global temperature, which results in very catastrophic consequences for the earth. For example, rising sea level or rising average temperature of the earth, and the health issues which people are now having due to the changing environment. So there are many consequences which the world faces. Now, although Kyoto Protocol was signed in 1997, but India has signed and ratified Kyoto Protocol in 2002. And although India has signed and ratified it, but the countries like India, China and the other developing countries, they are exempted from Kyoto Protocol's targets. They do not need to follow the requirements which are mentioned under this protocol as given for the developed world. Along with this, India basically relies on the principle of historical responsibility. What was historical responsibility? We have talked about the common but differentiated responsibility. So India also acknowledges the same principle. It said that the developed countries are responsible for most of the historical and current greenhouse gases emissions, and that is why they should have more responsibility. And it said that India also emphasizes that economic and social development are the main priorities or overriding priorities of developing countries, because developing countries are not having much greenhouse gas emissions, so their major priority of developing world is their economic and social development. So India says that it is not fair to impose similar restrictions on developing countries as it has been imposed on the developed world. Along with that, India has already taken much efforts to curb greenhouse gas emissions, to undo the environmental problems which are we have been facing. So काफ़ी सारे programs and initiatives इंडिया ने लॉन्च किए हैं. India's national auto fuel policy, energy conservation policy, Electricity Act of 2003, national biofuel policy which has been recently launched. Along with that, we are now focusing on electric vehicles, so that we would rely less on the conventional fuels like petrol and diesel. So electric vehicles would result in cleaner environment. It would not pollute our atmosphere. Along with this, India is focusing more and more on renewable energy, majorly on solar energy. So many efforts has been taken by India, and in 1997, a review of the Rio Summit which was held in 1992, तो उसके अंदर जो टारगेट सेट किए थे एग्रीमेंट के अंडर, उसका रिव्यू किया गया था बाय इंडिया. And under that review, it was concluded that there had been no meaningful progress with respect to the transfer of new and additional financial resources. Now, under this Kyoto Protocol, it was mentioned that we have common but differentiated responsibility, and because developing world does not have advanced technologies, does not have much financial resources, so it was said that the developed world would help developing countries in accessing new and advanced technology. They would help them with additional financial resources so that they could develop environmentally sound technology on consensual terms. So इस particular area में there was no meaningful progress. It was concluded under this review which was done by India. Now let us see environmental movements. Now basically the environmental movements or the challenge to the or significant response to the challenges of environmental consequences, it has not come from government, but it has come from the conscious volunteers, environmentally conscious volunteers like NGOs or different organizations. Some work at the international level, but majority of them work at the local level. Now these environmental movements are amongst the most vibrant and diverse, and they have powerful social movement across the world today. Now these movements help us, or they give new ideas and long-term visions of what we should do regarding to solve the environmental issues, or what we should not do to our environment. Now there are different types of environmental movement. First, we can say there are forest movements, there are movements which oppose in mineral industries, there are struggles against mega dams which are also called as pro-river movements. Now what is the problem with why there are forest movements? Forests are considered to be the lungs of our ecosystem. They help us in stabilizing our atmosphere, they help us in cleaning up our atmosphere, they are considered to be as the carbon sink. So, and what we are doing to the forest resources, we are cutting them down continuously, we are adopting the process of deforestation, we are continuously cutting trees and plants. So, and this is specifically in third world countries, it continues at alarming rate, and this has resulted in environmental activism. Along with this mineral industry, now mineral industry specifically in global south, or the developing world or the underdeveloping world, here MNCs are allowed, or the multinational companies get access to the global economy under the liberalization or globalization policy. And what does the mineral industry do? They extract Earth's resources. In that, they use chemicals. And if they are using chemical, they would pollute water, they would pollute land, they would pollute soil. Everything is polluted during the mining or in the process of mineral industries. It's clearance of native vegetation, the plants and trees which is present in the area where mining has to be done. It has to be cleared. It results in displacement of communities, indigenous communities. And then it continues to invite lots of criticism and resistance from global community. Along with this, there are numerous movements against mega dams. Mega dam is, for example, in case of India, we have seen the example of Narmada Bachao Andolan. And these mega dams, they also result in obstructing the natural flow of river. They could result in floods. Major floods could happen, artificial floods which we called them. And these movements which are against mega dams, they are pro-river movements. They are in favor of river. These people who are opposing construction of mega dams, they want to maintain the proper natural flow of river. So these movements are considered as the pro-river movements. Now let us move to the next topic, which is resources geopolitics. Now what is resource geopolitics? Resource geopolitics is about who gets what, when, where and how. It basically is related to the distribution of resources. Who gets what, when, where and how. Now the resources, if we talk about specifically the oil resource, which is very important in international politics. So the resources have provided the main reason or the key or means and motive to the European power, the colonial European powers specifically, in their expansion. Why do you think that colonialism had taken place? It was basically to control the resources of the underdeveloped countries. Then the Western geopolitical thing, and it has resulted in interstate rivalry. We will see that also. Now Western geopolitical thinking was related to, or it has been dominated by, relationship of trade, war and power. And at the core of all these, at the core of trade, war and power, basically it was the overseas resources and maritime navigation. Now industrialized countries of North, basically the global North, they have adopted numerous methods to ensure steady flow of resources to their countries. They have deployed military forces to the areas where they exploit resources or they extract natural resources. They have deployed their military along the sea lines of communication, जहाँ से major trade होता है resources का. Then they have made sure that the regions from where they import oil or the major resources, they installed country friendly government, मतलब जो उस country के favor में government काम करे, puppet government जिसको हम कहते हैं, they have installed that. So diplomatically काफ़ी engagement होते हैं. Along with that, multinational companies also help countries in ensuring the uninterrupted supply of strategic resources. In strategic resources, one major resource is oil, which is found mainly in Western or the Gulf region, I would say, West Asia or Central Asia. West Asia, specifically the Gulf region, it accounts for 30% of oil production. जहाँ पर Saudi Arabia is the major producer and जहाँ पर सबसे ज़्यादा जो reserves हैं, known reserves पाए जाते हैं. And it is also said that the Gulf region, out of total production, Gulf region comprises of 30%, but total non-reserves जो भी हैं उसमें से 64% Gulf region में मिलते हैं. Along with this, next important or strategic resource is water. Now water is very crucial for the survival of living beings, specifically not only human, animals also. So, and regional scarcity, water is not available equally in all the regions. So There is regional scarcity, regional variations, which has been increasing day by day, scarcity of fresh water specifically, and it is said that the next war or the third world war would be on the water, because water is continuous. The clean water, fresh water resources has been declining and reducing day by day. Its scarcity has been increasing, and water wars are described. If water war takes place, it would be one of the most violent conflict over the life sustaining resource, because water is the life sustaining resource. एंड वाटर रिसोर्स की वजह से मेजर जो प्रॉब्लम होती है, इट इज़ बिटवीन द कंट्रीज विच आर शेयरिंग रिवर्स बिटवीन देयर बाउंड्रीज, जहाँ पर जो लोअर रिपेरियन स्टेट है और जो डाउन स्ट्रीम स्टेट है, दे ऑब्जेक्ट टू द पॉल्यूशन, एक्सेसिव इरीगेशन बाय अपर रिपेरियन स्टेट और कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ डैम्स बाय द अपस्ट्रीम और अपर रिपेरियन स्टेट. सो दीज आर द प्रॉब्लम विच वी फेस इन द global area due to the strategic resources. Now another topic under this chapter, and the last topic I would say, is the rights of indigenous people. Now who are indigenous people? Suppose that this is the region एंड यहाँ पर काफ़ी सारे लोग रहते थे, मतलब न्यूमरस communities were living there. And then later on, people from outside countries started entering this particular region. So the people who were living there before, or I would say, the indigenous population is the descendants of the people who were inhabited in the present territory. This is the territory of a country at the time when the person of different culture or ethnic origin, different ethnic origin arrived there. So यहाँ से जो अलग अलग रीजन से अलग अलग कल्चरल एंड एथनिसिटी के लोग आए, उन्होंने एंटर किया, उनके पहले से जो लोग वहाँ रहते थे, दे आर नोन एज द इंडिजिनस पीपल. And when we talk about the question of rights of indigenous people, then this brings the issue of environment, resources and politics together. There in the world there are approximately 30 crore people who are indigenous, and all the communities of indigenous people call for equality. They call for the government for their admission as the equals to other communities living in the country. When we develop any major project, it results in displacement of people. Basically, the people who are displaced are the indigenous population, and the loss of land for them means the loss of economic resource base, because the livelihood of these people was based on that particular land which has now lost. And the problems or the issues of indigenous people has been neglected for very long. But finally, in 1975, when World Council of Indigenous People was formed, it was established, it started talking about the issues which indigenous people faces, and now many NGOs have been formed under the UN even, and now we have started, or the world has started considering the issues of indigenous people. In India even, many constitutional protections are given, and in India, indigenous peoples are known as tribal. Specifically, when we talk about indigenous people in Indian context, we are referring to the scheduled tribes. So, in India, numerous constitutional protections have been given, reservation is provided to the ST community, and many initiatives have been taken. So, this is all about the chapter number 8. Thank you very much. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and in our next video, we will start with our last chapter, and then we will wind up this NCERT crash course. Thank you very much.